Hey guys, how's it going? So as the Michigan lame duck session continues, we're still experiencing a flurry of firearms bills, gun control bills that are getting rammed through often in the middle of the night. I have a whole stack of bills here. We're going to get right into these, and these are all bills that have passed either the Senate or the House respectively. We're looking at a Senate bill that's a bump stock ban. We're looking at a temporary or indefinite do not sell list. We're also looking at a bill that would ban privately made firearms, otherwise known as ghost guns, and hold on, we'll get into this in a second, even prohibit firearms that are possibly family heirlooms that were manufactured a long time ago. Maybe it'll even get the feds a little bit ticked off. We will see. Also, we're looking at a capital gun ban. This would be for CPL holders as well as non-CPL holders. It would ban open or concealed or any type of firearm carry in 3 buildings at the state capitol, but it would exempt legislators. We're also looking at a House bill that's passed the House that would mandate the destruction of any seized or buyback firearms. Now we're going to go through all this stuff because there's a lot to it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. It's good to have you here. And for all of the rest of you who have been here a while, look, I'm putting these videos out so you guys can get involved. You need to talk to your friends, family, and your legislators and tell them this is not acceptable in Michigan. And if this is the first video you've seen of mine, go back and check my recent live streams as well as videos because there's a lot of stuff here. And also, literally, I'm going to give you thorough information on how these are passing and what stages they're in. And this took me hours, many hours to compile and get these to their updated versions, which takes time away from work and my family. So if you would like to help support the channel, you guys are my sponsors. I'm not doing an ad read here. There's links down in the description on how you can do that because, again, there's a lot to all of this. So the first one I'm going to go through is Senate Bill 942. Now, we've discussed this before. I'm going to give you a quick update. This is the so-called bump stock ban. This would add bump stocks as items that are prohibited in Michigan. We're talking about a felony punishment. And the definition of a bump stock would be, bump stock means a device that allows a semi-automatic firearm to shoot more than one shot with a single pull of the trigger by harnessing the recoil energy of the semi-automatic firearm to which the device is affixed so that the trigger resets and continues firing without additional physical manipulation of the trigger by the shooter. Let me know in the comments what you think that defines. Could be many things. Now, this one was passed by the Senate. It was received on this last Friday, the 13th, on House Journal 86. And this one was bipartisan, unfortunately. So I looked up Senate Journal 106. And let me tell you how frustrating this is. This is a good example. So if you go to the Michigan Legislature website and look at the history of Senate Bill 942, it tells you when it was introduced, when it went to committee, whether it was reported favorably or not. And then it tells you the Senate Journal. There's a journal they keep of everything that goes on in the Senate session, as well as a House Journal for everything that goes on in the Michigan House. And these are all state of Michigan gun control bills. Keep that in mind. So it says on the official legislative website that this is in Senate Journal 107. We're talking like 100-ish page documents for each journal. It was not in there. So I had to go through and look through previous journals, and I found it on Senate Journal 106. This is how complicated this is to even find this stuff. If you go to the legislative website and look at this bill, Senate Bill, Michigan Senate Bill 942, it'll say it's on Senate Journal 107, but it's indeed 106. Now, the Senate has a narrow 2-seat Democrat majority. Out of the 38 senators, 20 are Democrats, 18 are Republicans. And we can see this roll call vote. There were 23 yes votes, 12 no votes, and 3 that were in excused absence. Here's your 3 Republicans that support gun control. Senator Albert, Senator Huizenga, and Senator Weber. So some of you guys might live in those areas. Maybe these senators ran as pro-Second Amendment. these senators voted against the Second Amendment, of course, along with every single Democrat. So there you go. Real quick note here, this is Huizenga, okay? There's another senator named Hoitenga. Missy Hoitenga voted no. I just want to make that clear, because when I was talking to one of my friends, I was like, dude, 3 Republican senators voted for this crap. Who were they? I was like, Albert, Huizenga, and Weber. He's like, Hoitenga, I thought she was pro 2A. Just wanted to make that clear. Their names sound similar. Hoitenga voted no. Huizenga, or Huizenga, however you want to pronounce that, voted yes. Voted for gun control, along with Albert and Weber. Hoitenga's awesome on the Second Amendment. I've been talking a ton with my senator, Joe Bellino. He's awesome on the Second Amendment, and others. I just like to call out the bad ones and the good ones when I get a chance. All right, here's the next one here. Stacks of paperwork, guys. This is the substitute for Senate Bill 1086. See, they can put a bill forth. We get familiar with the bill. Then they put a substitute out. This was received by the House late at night, like at 11 o'clock at night. Look, most of this goes on in the middle of the night. If you've watched some of my live streams, you know. If not, go back and watch one. You'll see what I'm talking about. This was received like after 11 o'clock at night by the House on 12/13. That means it's up where they can now vote for it. This is passed the Senate on December 13th, received by the House on the 13th. This is a temporary and an indefinite do not sell list. This has been amended to a great degree with the substitute. It appears for the most part it's voluntary, but there's still going to be problems for people that end up on this list. Let me know if you would like a video dedicated just to this bill, because it's thick and I don't want to go over this bill too long, because some of you don't have time to watch longer videos. So any of these, if you want a standalone video, let me know. I'll try to get that out soon, because these are probably going to be getting voted on in the House soon. Now we're going to be looking at the substitute for Senate Bill 1149. Now the House did receive this on 12/13. It passed the Senate on 12/12. This was received on House Journal 86. We talked about this bill quite a bit. If you go back and watch my previous video, and I talked about a secret Senate gun control bill. That's because we all saw the original version of this bill. This is the so-called ghost gun privately made firearms bill. All right. Now, they had passed it through committee with substitute 2. I had gone to the website. You couldn't find substitute 2. That's when I called Senator Joe Bellino's office, and his chief of staff, whose name is also Joe, provided that for us and for the channel, and I was the first person to break substitute 2. Now, I did a video dedicated to that. Again, we're still talking about Senate Bill 1149. That's the privately made firearms bill. They call it a ghost gun bill. But, so, out of committee was substitute 2. That's in a previous video on this channel. Follow me here. This is crazy. They ended up passing substitute 5, otherwise known as S5, through the Senate on December 12th. Now, a brief synopsis of this, and I could definitely do a standalone video with this as well. This is going to prohibit the transfer, the selling, the creating, the possession of non-serialized firearms. What they call a ghost gun precursor, which could be as simple as a forging of metal, a piece of plastic. This is concerning things if you made it the old-fashioned way, just with a file or a drill or a hammer, okay? This is also going to be concerning the use of 3D printers, CNC machines, the way certain things are marketed. Now, the original bill had no grandfather clause at all. The substitute 2 grandfathered some of the parts of this for 3 years, meaning you had 3 years to comply. Look, I'm not a lawyer, no legal advice in this video whatsoever. Well, the substitute 2 had given like a 3-year grace period to get into compliance with some parts of the provisions. Other parts of this bill, if it becomes law, would go into effect immediately. I see now on this substitute 5 version, they've taken it from 3 years down to 18 months, okay, for the compliance period, if you will, before it would go into effect. But again, that's only for part of the bill. Part of it would go into effect as soon as the public act would go into effect. Now remember, these are all still bills, not laws, but they've all passed one chamber, okay, of the Michigan legislature. If it passes the other chamber, House or Senate respectively, the governor's going to sign any and all gun control. Now, here's the interesting part. At a certain point here, you won't be able to possess a non-serialized firearm. But it says that an antique firearm is exempt. If you go to look at the definition of antique firearm, it tells you to look into a federal code, a CFR. So 27 CFR 479.11. Now, according to the federal government, which is the definition that they're using here for antique, so antique's exempt, but it has to be made in 1898 or earlier for it to be an antique. So pre-1899. We're talking back 2 centuries ago in essence, right? Now, here's the interesting thing, though. The Gun Control Act of 1968 required serial numbers nationwide on firearms. If the firearm is pre-1968 and it was manufactured without a serial number, now if it had one before 68, you can't obliterate it, remove it, whatever. Again, no legal advice, guys. I'm just telling you how I understand this. But if it came with no serial number from the manufacturer, from the factory, presumably if it was also privately made before 1968, I'm getting into lawyer stuff here, not a lawyer, I want to be very clear, but if it had no serial number before 1968, it wouldn't need a serial number. And that's the way federal law stands today. They are not grandfathering or exempting, as far as I can see, in this Substitute 5 version of the Senate Bill 1149. They're not exempting any of these that were made from 1899 all the way up to a certain date in 1868. We'll just say pre-68, just to keep it simple here. So before 68, but after 1898, we're talking about 68 years here of firearms, 69 years of firearms, where maybe Grandpa's shotgun was made with no serial number. And it, currently right now, because these bills have not become law yet, very high likelihood, but not yet, that you could be in possession of an unserialized firearm and be criminalized for that. Rifles, pistols. We already have a pistol registry in Michigan, but there's many older firearms. I think of like Grandpa's old break-action single-shot shotgun. Maybe something that was bought at Sears or just whatever. It was one of those cheap imports back in the day. Especially a lot of kind of more budget-friendly type firearms back in the day would not come with serial numbers. So keep that in mind. This could actually affect people's pre-1968 firearms that were made after 1898. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And maybe this deserves its own separate video. Now, the House received this on 12/13 on House Journal 86. Also, on 12/13, the House received on House Journal 86 Senate Bill 1150 that codifies this into law. We're talking like misdemeanor first offense, felony for second or more offenses on this privately made firearm, so-called ghost gun ban. Now, there's a lot more to all of this as well. Now, 857. Senate Bills 857 and Senate Bills 858. This is the capital ban for CPL holders, non-CPL holders within certain buildings. Now, Senate Bill 857. This was read into the House on House Journal 83 and assigned to the Committee on Judiciary. Now, it passed on Senate Journal 103 on December 5th, but yet again, this is what takes me so long to do these dang videos. Look, they pass this in the middle of the night. They don't even give you proper info. At one point in time last week, they wouldn't even give us public access to the substitute. But this passed on Senate Journal 103, not 106. So if you go to the Michigan Legislature website, type in Senate Bill 857, it's going to tell you that it passed on Senate Journal 106. Well, the reason you might want to do that is remember or look into that, like what Senate Journal, that's where you see the yay and nay votes. That's where I called out those 3 Republicans who voted for the so-called bump stock ban. I'm not sure what the bump stock ban bans yet, but that's complicated if you read the definition. So it's very convoluted, but if you want to see who voted for these bills, besides the bump stock one, these were all done on party lines, just to let you know. But I had to go through and scroll through all these Senate journals for days until I found it was indeed passed on Senate Journal 103. These Senate journals are hundreds of pages long. If you don't believe me, go type in Google MI space SJ 103. And you'll see this super fine print that I have to read through to see the status of all these. Now, this combined with Michigan Senate Bill, 858. So Michigan Senate Bill 857, 858 was read into the House on 12/5 as well, House Journal 85. And the committee rules were suspended, meaning they don't even need to push this through committee or have a committee hearing at all. They can forgo the committee and get this passed much quicker. By the time you combine these bills, the Capitol building itself will become a complete gun-free zone by law. Right now, it's by rule of the Capitol Commission, like the Grounds Commission, right? This would codify it into an actual law, as well as the Bensfield Senate building and the Anderson House Office building. Now, that makes you choose between exercising your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms or your First Amendment right to peaceably assemble inside the building, your First Amendment protected right to speak to your legislator, your First Amendment protected right to petition your government for a redress of grievance. Now you have to choose. Do you want your First Amendment or Second Amendment because you can't exercise them both concurrently? Now, with the weapon scanners that are already installed in the building, the Capitol building, there's also one that's installed at the Anderson House Office building. Now, that's installed there by rule of Speaker Tate, who will no longer be the speaker here in the next couple weeks. It's impossible to get into those buildings. If this passes into law, they will have advanced, it's not just a metal detector, it's an advanced weapon scanner that uses many forms of even artificial intelligence. It's kind of draconian. Look, these scanners in and of themselves are a huge breach of your privacy. To be securing your effects and your papers and your person. Yeah. So these are intrusive in so many ways, not just on the Second Amendment, but like with many of these, against other portions of the Bill of Rights and your natural rights. That's what they're really after right now. They hate that you have natural rights. And this is what a tyrannical government looks like right now, just so you know. Now, you'd be banned from all them places. And I know so many people are going to type in, like when I did the video on Senate Bills 857, 858, you'll say, I shall not comply. Look, I urge it. That's the American spirit. I shall not comply with draconian, unconstitutional laws. Look, I'm not giving anyone legal advice. I'm certainly not telling anybody publicly to break laws. I'm just saying, that's like the American way. Here's the problem. With these advanced weapon scanners, with this capital ban for these three buildings, there is no I shall not comply. You literally won't get in. They won't let you in with a firearm. And once these become law, there's criminal penalties if you were to try. So, if you shall not comply with not carrying in these, well, then you will never go to see your legislator in their office. You'll never be able to go watch these people vote. You won't be able to take part in the political process. And this is a shame. This is a damn shame. So I just want you guys to know what this all entails. Now, of course, the legislators with CPLs have exempted themselves. Okay, any current sitting member of the Senate or the Michigan House of Representatives, they're exempt from this. Thus making like a whole completely separate problem, violating equal justice under the law. These are rules for thee, but not for me, is what the people that wrote and co-sponsored these bills say, and ultimately the people that voted for them in the Senate. And we will see who votes for these in the House. Currently, right now, the Michigan House Republican members walked out last Friday, out of session. From what I understand right now, at the time I'm filming this, which is late at night on the 16th, all right, Monday the 16th of December, they're still in protest. I will let you know as soon as I find out if they're going to return, when they're going to return, if they're going to return at all. They might just stay gone, and I hope they do, until the session's over. So we will see how the votes end up on this. But this has been read in to the House. They can now vote on these next week. There's a 5-day rule, by the way, where they have to wait. As soon as one chamber passes something, it goes to the next. The other chamber has to wait 5 days to rule on it. Well, the House is supposed to, as of right now, supposed to be done with session next week. The Senate has now added a session, or this week, this week. The Senate has now added session dates for next week. I found out that the House can actually just add session dates as much as they want, all the way up to 11:59 p.m. on the 31st of January. So just because something might be falling outside of that 5-day rule, we're not safe, because they can just add more session dates all the way through, right up until 1 minute before midnight on New Year's. Now, here's one more. This is House Bill number 6144. This is the mandatory destruction of seized or, quote, buyback guns. And this has been transmitted to the Senate on the 12th, House Journal 85. All right, well, there's a little bit of update for all of you. If you have any more questions, let me know. In the description, check the description before you leave, in the comment section, because there's a lot here, lots of technical stuff. And House Bill number 6145 is the companion bill to 6144. Together, these would mandate that the police have to destroy any firearms that were acquired during a so-called gun buyback, or were seized otherwise by the police, or turned into the police for basically any of these reasons. All right, I will be back soon. We will see what happens this week, but I expect some of this stuff to pass the respective opposite chambers, and I think we could still even see more gun control introduced, because there's a chance the Democrats could keep adding session days to get around that 5-day rule and keep this going even further. What a headache. Go back and watch some of my previous streams if you want to see how they do this in the middle of the night. It's nuts. And I will see you all soon. And make sure you check that description for the other sites that I post content to. All right. Thanks for watching. And have a good one.